Hello, welcome to the end of a week. It's been full of offbeat news items. There was a professor in Wales who's made the amazing discovery that during the recent dry and freezing weather, our extra layers of clothes generated so much static electricity that when people kissed, sparks flew, which is no news at all for those of us who've been bouncing off the wardrobe for the past month. A woman in Detroit came up with the best excuse for being late for work. She said her chicken's feet froze in the driveway, but she didn't want to run them over, so she had to wait until the sun melted the ice. They believed her, of course. Those privileged schoolboys at Eton have had an even greater advantage come their way. A Russian blonde who's been posing nude to help them get through their O-level art exams. It's rotten, really. The only model we had at my school was a stuffed weasel. And the death has been announced at the age of 82 of China's leading woman writer, Ding Ling. Thought that name rang a bell. And so to tonight's show, we'll be finding out that not everyone agrees on what makes an ideal home. And as a brand new perfume is launched, we'll be asking which aromas ladies like to linger. We'll be hearing why off-the-road motorists may no longer have to rely on the breaker's yard. And we'll be trailing pop star Madonna to see if she's still biting the hand that snaps her. Our guest knows a thing or two about photographers. She was snapped up by one long ago, but that's all in a few minutes. First, it's Andrew Gardner and Tina Jenkins at Thames with tonight's regional news.
Thank you, Michael, and hello. Tonight, the 2-hour-old baby found abandoned in a cardboard box and the police hunt for the mother, and why some council workers are threatening to take over a town hall.
We look at a new London-wide plan for teachers to share the same job and find out the sky-high price of saying it with flowers on Mother's Day.
But first, efforts are underway to trace the mother of a newborn baby boy abandoned in a cardboard box outside a shop in North Kensington. Hospital staff have called him Ben, and he's said to be doing very well. The fear now is for the mother's health.
Grocer Lewis Theodoro found the baby wrapped up inside a cardboard box at the back of his shop as he arrived for work. Lewis said he could tell the child had not been there long. He took him into his store where he turned on an electric fire to warm the baby before contacting the police.
I opened the door and I saw this box on the floor with what looked like a lot of rags in it. People normally leave boxes of rubbish around in the mews. So just at that, I heard a little gurgling noise. And I thought somebody was playing a joke on me, you know. I thought it was one of these dolls that you wind up and they cry.
The baby was whisked away from his first brief home, a shop on Goulburn Road, to a hospital nearby. He was later transferred to St Mary's at Paddington. Nurses there named him Ben.
Baby's quite well, actually.
Came in quite cold?
Very cold, and is now warmed up a great deal.
What would you say to the mother?
I don't really think that's for me to say, but I mean, there's a beautiful baby there who obviously needs its mother. And I should imagine there's a mum somewhere around who's probably quite poorly.
Already, a little bit of gentle rivalry has grown up between Lewis, who found the baby, and the nurses who are caring for him. Lewis had called the child Munro after the mews where he'd discovered him, but was later overruled. Only Mum can now settle the matter. Mark Wadsworth at Paddington.
The biggest town hall union in Lambeth say they won't work with the Conservatives if the party take control of the borough. Nalgo staff have also threatened to strike and occupy council buildings for a day. The Tories think they'll win power because Labour councillors face disqualification for not setting a rate in time.
More than 1,000 Nalgo members met for 2.5 hours to decide how they were going to back the surcharged Labour councillors. Their support was overwhelming.
The Nalgo vote comes down to total non-cooperation with the Tories if they try to take power once Labour councillors have been disqualified. If that happens, there will be a one-day strike and an occupation of council buildings. That'll be followed by a strict work to rule, and there will be no cover of vacant posts. And Nalgo members will be advised not to cooperate with any meetings of a Tory administration or to implement any of their decisions.
We consider that no way should the electorate of Lambeth have a minority administration running the whole borough. We consider that Labour councillors were put there through a democratic process, and we are not going to respect any decisions taken by individuals who have not been placed in control of the council through democratic means.
I think there's a lot of rhetoric in that. I think that we are all interested in delivering the services to the community. That's why we were elected, incidentally by a majority of the electors in the borough in May 1982. And we shall deliver those services, and if Nalgo don't cooperate, then it's because they're supporting law breaking, and that's very unfortunate.
If the rebel councillors lose an appeal and the Tories do take over, it could be a short reign. Elections are due in May and Lambeth's politics will be back in the melting pot. Paul Larsman in Lambeth.
13 men who conned thousands of pounds out of a trusting priest with false tales of hardship have been jailed for deception. Father Bussey believed them all. When the fraud came to light, his church in North Watford was left heavily in debt.
The men all came to St Helen's Church with hard luck stories which ranged from needing money to bury a baby, to help their sick wives or to pay the rent. In little over a year they took £50,000 from Father Bussey. The court heard he'd always given out alms, but the judge said, far from leading them not into temptation, the priest was doing just that without intending to do so. Father Bussey has now gone into retirement. His successor says he'd always put others above himself.
Obviously, he was saddened that his trust had been, in some ways, betrayed. He's a very trusting and kind man. And I feel that, he was saddened by the fact that the stories he'd been told were not true. Most priests do unwittingly, from time to time, give money to undeserving people, but it was just the sheer scale that I think surprised most of us.
St Helen's Church is now £123,000 in the red, but the judge said that those responsible for overseeing the parish finances must share some of the blame for the overdraft. Heather Scott in North Watford.
Now, as you may have seen on ITN, descriptions have been issued of the 3 men who carried out the attacks at St Mary's Vicarage in Ealing. A woman was raped and her boyfriend was hit about the head. He's seriously hurt. And the vicar, the Reverend Michael Aspel, was also attacked. He's got head injuries as well. All the men are white, in their 20s or early 30s. The first is 6 feet tall with black collar-length hair and a spider's web tattoo on his right hand. He wore a blue nylon bomber jacket. The second is about 5 feet 7 inches with light, possibly streaked hair. He's pot-bellied and has the letter MAR tattooed across his knuckles. His bomber jacket is grey or green. The third man is 5 feet 8 inches with highlighted hair, short on the top with bushy sides. Anyone with information about the attack should ring the police incident room. The numbers are 840-5700, 840-3874 and 840-3824.
A job-sharing experiment for teachers has been such a success it's to be extended across the capital. The scheme allows 2 teachers to share the same job, each working half the week, and the Inner London Education Authority say there are benefits for pupils as well.
When teacher Mike Davis arrived for work at a school in Hackney this morning, his job-sharing partner Claire Widgery was busy looking after Matthew, one of her 2 children. The man she lives with is also a job-sharing teacher. Between them they have a single salary, but both share bringing up the children. Job-sharing has become an ideal solution for women who want to take time off from the profession to have children.
For lots of women who choose to take some time out to look after their children when they're very young, what happens if they completely stop work is that they lose confidence and the system doesn't let them come back.
Meanwhile, at school, Mike Davis is teaching cookery, part of a course in living which keeps him at the school for half a week. It gives him time to stay at home to look after his 4 children while his wife works full-time. And there's less stress at school.
I feel sane at the end of the school week, whereas I know a lot of teachers, after teaching 5 days in a classroom, feel... and I feel quite fresh quite often because I'm often on a half day, on some days no days at all. Okay.
An ILEA survey has found that teachers and pupils benefit from the job sharing, and most head teachers were satisfied with the scheme. Now it's to be extended and should be going ahead later this year. This is Ken Andrew in Hackney.
A gang of muggers who terrorised tube travellers and West End shoppers have been jailed for a total of more than 20 years. The Old Bailey heard that they were members of the so-called Killerman Gold Posse. They made around £1,500 a week, ripping jewellery from their victims.
A High Court judge has ordered a nationwide search for a father of 22 children who's on the run with 5 of them. They were all under the supervision of Lambeth Council. Mick Kemp had been living with Sabrina and Rowena, their sister and 2 brothers, in Southend. They disappeared in December.
A plan to give council tenants in Bromley £5,000 if they move out of their homes and buy private property instead is threatened because of legal snags. The offer was made because Bromley Council want to empty 200 properties and put homeless families in them. And now, because of the legal hitch, Bromley may take themselves and other London boroughs to court.
Anne and Karma's council flat in Orpington will be a dream home for some of the desperate families on Bromley Council's homeless list. But for Anne, it's come to seem like a prison. She's lived here for 13 years, and for most of them she's wanted to get out, away from the grimy walkways to a private home of her own. But until now she hadn't a chance, because she couldn't scrape together the money needed for a deposit. For her, news of the council's grant offer is a godsend.
The property was getting more and more expensive, and I was finding it very difficult to save up for a deposit.
So how do you feel about this grant?
I'm over the moon.
But last-minute legal hitches may mean Anne will never get her dream home. There's some doubt about whether the council is empowered to hand out the money. The grant scheme is one that several councils would like to adopt, and if necessary, several of them may take themselves to the High Court to test the plan's legality. Today, Bromley was optimistic the scheme would get the go-ahead, but even if it does, only 200 properties will be cleared, and with the housing list topping 4,500, it sounds like a drop in the ocean.
But it's a very useful drop. At present, the supply situation is that we're something like 200 homes down on where we were a year ago. So if we get 200, we will be back to a situation where we can manage quite well.
But the Labour opposition disagree.
It's certainly not enough to tackle Bromley's problems. We're putting all our eggs in this basket, and we need also to be building new homes and acquiring new homes to meet the demand.
But both sides do agree that the grants are a cheap and quick way to increase vacant housing stock, and if Bromley is successful in overcoming the legal barriers, several other boroughs are expected to introduce similar schemes. Rita Carter in Bromley.
Detectives are interviewing inmates at Parkhurst Prison on the Isle of Wight after an Islington man was stabbed to death. John Harty's family say that he was due to be released in June.
A new survey says the initial development of Stansted as London's 3rd airport will create 11,000 jobs by 1990. The world of the Victorian servant has been recreated at the London Museum of Below Stairs in Southwark, which opened today. It offers an authentic glimpse of the life of the serving classes. To mark the event, there was a period costume party.
The cost of saying it with flowers on Mother's Day is as much as 140% up on last year. The cold snap has sent the price of flowers rocketing, with the favourite, daffodils, costing twice as much as last year.
You'll have to dig deep into your pocket if you want to say Happy Mother's Day this Sunday. Daffs, the day's most popular gift, are in very short supply and pricey. Instead of last year's 50p a bunch, the cheapest we found today were 85p, and the dearest £1.20 for 10. That's 12p for each golden daffodil.
No, I think it's a bit much for a few daffodils.
What do you think a fair price would be?
75p.
Just rob them out of a park, can't they?
I wouldn't spend 120 on those.
Even to give to your mum for Mother's Day?
No, definitely not. I think it's something more adventurous to give to my mother on Mother's Day.
I wouldn't pay more than £1 for it. No, certainly wouldn't.
Guess how much they cost?
I don't know, about 25 pence.
If you don't think daff's a good value for Mum, there are alternatives.
Yes, I bought her a jumper.
She probably might prefer something she could eat. Chocolates, maybe?
Usually orchids, actually.
That's a good deal more than 120, though, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. But it looks a lot better than that.
Something else the weather's taking the blame for, but never mind, because same again's the message I've got tonight, which means a lot of pleasant, dry weather to come. But it also means, of course, for tonight anyway, a chance of frost and fog again, just like we had last night. The little man in the satellite is on our side, absolutely. Plenty of clear weather around us there, you'll notice. And although you might think that the cloud coming in from the Atlantic just into the picture there now is ominous, you have my assurance that it's not going to get into the Thames area. It'll not get any further than about Cornwall. I think we'll stay more or less as we are for a while yet. So tonight then, it's going to be a very pleasant evening, but watch out for patchy fog after that, like we got last night. Becoming cold later too. Most parts of the area getting a slight frost by tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow, well, it's not going to be unlike today, really. Some patchy fog early in the day. Watch out for that. But that going during the morning, then plenty of sunshine after that. Mild as well after that coldish start. the temperature getting over 50 tomorrow, and only a very light breeze, so it looks like turning out a very pleasant day for everybody. And then on Sunday, there might be the odd shower around on Sunday, but nothing very much, and next week, staying dry and pleasant right through the week, I think. And
thank you very much indeed, Jack. Well, that's about it for this week. So from Jack, from Tina, me and the rest of the news team, have a smashing and sunny weekend. Time once again for the 6 o'clock show. So back now to Special Meal plus H. We've been playing anagrams, so it's really Michael Aspel.
Special Meal plus H. I wonder what the H is. We'll find out later on. Thank you, Andrew. Your turn next week. Right. Danny and Gary, my boys, how lovely to see you.
That's how lovely to see you.
Not a moment's applause. I'm very pleased to hear that. Now, last week's episode ended on a cliffhanger, Danny. You were in the middle of a question.
Ah, yes, last week when Ian Carmichael was here, we were talking about competitions and the questions that are in it. And right at the end, because I thought we had more time, I said to him, "You live in Whitby in Yorkshire, doesn't?" And he said yes. And I said, "What is the connection between Whitby in Yorkshire and Anchorage, Alaska?" Wherein Michael said, "No time." And a lot of people have been asking, what is the connection? And it's something very dull. They're twin towns, I'm afraid. More interesting than that is the fact that it's Wendy's birthday. Happy birthday, Wen. The key to the drinks cupboard is under the settee. It gets stuck in. All right.
Gary, good evening.
Yes.
What caught your eye this week?
Oh, what caught my eye? Funny enough, we were talking in the office earlier on, so many pet stories this week. There's some woman, Mrs Stacey from Trowbridge. Or was it Mrs Trowbridge from Stacey? I can't remember. Anyway, she's got this killer hamster that eats everything and it runs around attacking her family and everything. And indeed, carrying the theme of pets on a little bit further, the RSPCA are actually looking for new offices at the moment because the offices they have at the moment, they reckon there's not enough room to swing a cat.
I could have kept talking to Andrew Gardner, really, couldn't I? Anyway, as you may have been made aware, pop star Madonna and her husband Sean Penn are in town to make the film Shanghai Surprise. This week they were doing a swimming scene in the exotic public baths in Poplar. Now, back home in the States, the couple are known for their no-nonsense approach to the press. Here is Sean in conversation with a photographer. Could that ever happen here? Of course it could. There have been plenty of nasty scenes as Madonna's minders battle it out with our brave boys from the darkroom. Now, a certain amount of hurly-burly is to be expected, but have Madonna and Sean gone over the top? Yesterday in Knightsbridge, Madonna gave her first press conference, but banned television and radio. Will the Fleet Street photographers be satisfied with this quick photo call? Or are we set for more extraordinary scenes as they continue to pursue the reluctant two? Danny volunteered to find out.
And you can dance for inspiration.
There was a time when young Madonna loved all the publicity that went with being a famous pop star. But then she married Sean Penn, and ever since they've been running away from the cameras. Try asking Abby for a picture, and the answer's always the same. Nowadays, Sean and Madonna, just Sean and Madonna to some of us, will do anything to avoid a camera. Every morning they nip out of this house to go and work on their film, avoiding even the quickest snap or the boldest of quotes. And what's the outcome? Endless publicity. Try to get a simple shot of the Holland Park mansion where they're staying and the security blankets come down. Or go up, as the case may be. Now this may look like no way for a superstar to treat the press, but it's a well-tried technique according to another pop legend.
I think the trick is very simple. You start off by getting as much publicity as you can. You do anything for the press, for the photographers, for the cameras, and when you get there, you then avoid publicity like crazy. You refuse to be around, you do a Greta Garbo or an Elvis Presley, and suddenly everybody wants you. It's the old trick. Michael Jackson's done it, Prince has done it, I've done it myself. The only trouble is when I make myself unavailable, the phone never rings.
The technique's certainly working for Madonna and Sean. The tougher they get with the press, the more they hit the headlines. It made the front page when their limousine collided with photographer Dave Hogan. Mind you, that wasn't his first brush with a couple. Last month in Hong Kong, their minders got up to all sorts of tricks.
Two others had these theatrical smoke guns, and one that just put the smoke gun in my camera bag and just filled me with smoke. And every time I went to take a picture, he'd turn on the gas gun, and I'd just disappear like a genie in a cloud of, white smoke. And the poor Chinese couldn't understand this because there was this sort of 6'4" photographer just towering above all the local Chinese people that every now and again would just disappear in a cloud of white smoke. And the Chinese, well, why are you doing this to this person? What's wrong with him? You know?
Well, this is Knightsbridge, and Madonna's just about to arrive at this building behind me. And this lot here had a much better British press. Yeah, they've taken all the stick by Madonna over the week. Sean Penn's kept them on the op. And what are they doing? They've all come back for more. And if you ask me, they've got half an eye on being dished out some more verbal. Mind you, is anyone going to make a stand with me and say, let's ignore these people? No chance. Even the photographers who haven't managed to get a single shot of Sean and Madonna won't give up. After all, this might be their big opportunity.
After, 8 days now following her, I haven't seen her. She's been completely covered. They've been using dummies, they've sprayed us with water, they've chucked lumps of wood at us.
And when Madonna arrived, it was pandemonium.
Madonna's about to come. Madonna's coming. Camera's turn, man.
No longer important. It's amazing, isn't it? You'd think someone somewhere would say enough's enough. There is one man who's reached breaking point. He's DJ Chris Ashley. He's so incensed by Sean and Madonna's behaviour, he's banned their records from his radio show.
The reaction has been tremendous. Look at that. This morning when I left from South Wales, on the desk just today were these. Now these are not just they're from parents, of course, so they're saying, yeah, Chris, we agree with your stand. You know, you're not the brightest guy in the entire world, but we agree with your stand. Something's got to be done. These people can't come over here behaving like this.
But where the press are concerned, Madonna and Sean are still the biggest stars in the business. You see, as long as they're in town, there'll always be a photographer on their tail. Supposing I could tell you now that Sean Penn is sunning himself on the Isle of Man as we speak, would you be up to there?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, most certainly.
Why, is he?
Yeah? Is he? No. Look at the glee.
Our guest has been captured by lenses the world over, and she was carried off by David Bailey to be his very own for some years, and it's Marie Helvin. Marie, nice to see you. What was your attitude to it? Did you just regard it all as part of the game?
What we just saw, or being married to Bailey?
Well, being chased and photographed and all that.
Yes, you know, I've never really had it quite like Madonna has. I've been in the company of people that have. I remember once Bailey and I took Catherine Deneuve out to dinner, and the press were, the photographers, which are unbelievable. I mean, they were fighting to get inside the car with us, and I was quite terrified. Catherine, in the meantime, was very nonplussed by it all. I mean, she thought it was very normal.
Have you got to know all the paparazzi, as they're called?
Yeah, I know them all very well. I like them all. I mean, they all do their job. They help me, and I'd like to help them. I mean, I think with Madonna, I may be wrong, but maybe someone hasn't told her about how the press actually works in this country, and you really do have to give a little bit more than you do anywhere else. They are so powerful here. And I think maybe that if she and Sean had posed for some pictures in the beginning, quite possibly that, you know, they would have left them alone.
Ah, but that's not what they want, of course. You know, no one's that naive, I suppose.
Yes.
Was David Bailey ever a paparazzi himself?
Are you kidding? Absolutely not. I mean, he's a serious photographer.
Yes, I stand reproached. Boys, are you impressed by what you've been seeing?
Oh, yes, but I don't think she's even in the country, Madonna. I think she's out somewhere else. I think she's in Australia or something like that. Because no one's ever seen her, so the chances are she hasn't know it.
We didn't come across her all day, and at the end of the day, I must say, I don't know who's balmier, the press or Madonna, because there were no fans there at all. There were not like, you know, you got all the fans and police getting around. It was purely the press and her chasing each other around all the time. And when you look at it, I mean, she had a couple of #1s a year ago. She had the film out, all right, and every other was got about 10 or 12. And yet we got all this. And the press are going crazy, and the punters were just walking by. Who's in there? Madonna. Oh, on they went. And the press are going click, click, click. It's just a game.
Well, she does have fans. I mean, I've just read that her fans in America have formed an association to save Madonna from nuclear war. Don't know why. Anyway, there's more to talk about in this programme. We'll be back soon with an in-depth investigation into how a lady should smell. Yes, I thought you'd say that. Well, now, if you think there is something in the air this month, you're right. And no, it isn't yet spring. The perfume manufacturers have chosen March as the month to unleash 2 new aromas. Next week, Estee Lauder will splash Beautiful onto the market. And at the end of the month, it's Calvin Klein's turn with his first ever fragrance, Obsession. Danny, by the way, has ordered a litre of Eau de Millwall. Now, perfume is a big business. The new Calvin Klein scent raked in over $17 million last year in America alone. Heady stuff. We send Andy Price to nose around.
We've all seen those glam and glossy perfume ads on TV which try to convince us that a dab of our favourite fragrance will transform us into a combination of Sophia Loren and Marie Helvin. But perhaps perfume wouldn't seem quite so romantic if you knew that many of the top scents are actually made in that fragrant and exotic suburb, Walthamstow. Here at Bush Boak Allen are created some of those fragrances that quicken men's pulses all over the world. From thousands of basic ingredients in the labs, highly trained perfumiers like Tony Mills are hot on the scent, sorting out the turn-ons from the turn-offs. It took Tony years to develop his nose.
You don't go like that. You just breathe very, very carefully in. You can analyse what's in it. You can get the feel of what's going on there. Yeah.
You
All
don't
the
twitch
components.
your nostrils?
No. Funny enough, one nostril can smell better than the other. One side can. I've always found that.
Of course, the manufacturing of the basic smell is only step one in the pursuit of a new perfume. Next, you've got to come up with the right image. To launch a fragrance in Britain alone will set a perfume company back at least £1 million. And that's where advertising executives like Jane Steele come into the picture.
A perfume is worth only 10% in terms of its fragrance, and it's probably 90% its image, which is like its bottle and its packaging and its advertising, actually what it looks like at the point of sale. Because imagery is so important to people's response to a perfume, whether they want to buy it or not, something like the shape of the bottle is obviously really important. And you probably notice that perfumes which have got a very romantic positioning have got beautiful shaped bottles with birds and swans and doves and things perched on the top.
She inflamed my senses.
Save me.
And when she had devoured...
But for the very latest mega launch, the PR people have pulled out all the stops. Calvin Klein's Obsession boldly goes where no perfume has dared go before.
In the kingdom of passion, the ruler is obsession. Calvin Klein's Obsession.
Oh, the smell of it.
But after they've spent millions manufacturing the new aroma and even more money marketing it, the real work still lies ahead. You've got to sell the stuff, and that's all left up to the front-line troops, those girls behind the perfume counter. And they do have their work cut out. Why bother buying a bottle of perfume when you can sneak a squirt for free from the tester bottle? When they're at the perfume counter, the ladies will spray on anything that isn't nailed down.
We spray about 5 or 6
and go home.
Yes, and then you get home and you realise one is awful, but you're stuck with it.
Yes.
It was last week I was cleaning the counter in the morning, and this little old lady's come in and she's sprayed herself with something, and she's come over to me and said, how much is this one? So I said, which one have you tried? So I smelt it on her. I didn't recognise it, and she's smelling away, and it turned out to be my cleaning polish,
Women want hankies sprayed and bits of cotton wool and tissues and letters and all sorts of things.
Dogs?
No, I haven't had that yet. Fur coats. Spray their fur coats.
But the girls know it's the men who are the key to selling perfume. They're so shy about it that any male foolish enough to wander unescorted through the perfume department is easy prey. And what really entices males is that oh-so-expensive image, but not always in the way the perfume companies might have intended. Take Poison by Christian Dior.
Lots of men, they were buying with 2 meanings, not only for the beautiful fragrance as such and the unusual bottle, but also for the name. Say, I met some men, they were asking, do you think it will be suitable for my mother-in-law?
That's a nice phrase, isn't it? Take Poison. Yes, very charming. Murray, when you choose a perfume, do you decide on a perfume you think your fellow is going to like, or just appeals to you?
I test my perfumes on my cab drivers, because I reckon that they have best taste. I mean, they would know. They would, because, well, they're in a car with, you know, women getting in and out all day long.
What do you do, climb over the back seat? What do you do?
No, they can smell it. I don't say anything to them. I just wait for them to mention it. And 90% of all the cab drivers I've been with like Chanel No. 5.
Really?
Because they all say, what are you, wearing? It's wonderful.
Have you found that perfume is actually a turn-on for men?
Are you kidding? I like perfume a cologne on men, definitely.
What's your favourite in that department?
My favourite is one called Neroli that I gave
got
to
that on.
Gary to wear.
I did my research.
Really nice. Would you like to have a whiff?
A whiff? Oh, well, yes, I thought you meant of Gary. Yes. Oh, the smell of it. Yes. It's only the left nostril that's working, actually.
Don't you like it?
Yes, it's quite lovely. Is
It's very sexy.
Is that what he is wearing?
Yeah, well, I drank half a bottle before I realised you had to put it.
My mother used to wear Evening in Paris. Do you remember the Evening in Paris? Woolworths used to sell that.
There's a perfectly unimpeachable and logical argument about perfume, because you go into a shop for Chanel for me mum, and of course they sell you this much for like 60 quid, you know. And he said, well, why don't you make a lot of it? Why not make a great big bottle of it? You must know the ingredients of it. Why do you sell it in these little bottles? And that seems perfectly fair to me. Make a great big milk bottle of it, sell it for 2 quid down the lane, and you've got yourself in business, haven't you? You're in business.
Yes, it's a fragrant idea. And your own personal favourite for yourself, we didn't find that out, did we?
No. I don't like to tell what it is.
Oh.
Because
All together, lads.
Yeah.
Oh,
2 quid down the line.
Right, now. Now, at last, the moment you have forgotten was going to happen, the grand finale of our Mean Mugs contest. We've been inundated with photographs, many of them too foul to show on television. As you know, the person with the meanest mug will have his or her face cast in plaster and turned into a permanent tableau at the London Dungeon, next to Ken Livingstone, I'm told. Anyway, we had a tough job choosing the finalists, but some of the close contenders were Bunny Popeye Perkis from Southwark, Mr. Paul Sharp from Enfield, known to his close friends as Beelzebub. Then there was Mother Teresa lookalike Sean McMahon, and Victoria Murden, whose granny Pauline from Mitcham says this is a very special smile. And finally, Robert Steele from Raynham, who likes getting up his own nose. Well, we've managed to select 6 finalists, and those of a nervous disposition should leave the room. Danny.
Yes, thanks, Mike. Yes, behind this wall are 6 boat races which are to the face which Nat Jackley was to the neck. There's one for the teenagers. In other words, they are uncontrollably distorted. Inconceivably distorted. That's the words. Yes. Anyway, in a minute, we'll be naming the winner. But for now, would you please meet the judge, a man whose face was once described as 2 tins of condemned veal, Mr. Arthur Mullard. Here's a face, Arthur. Yes, come down and join us. I shall never forget this performance in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. What an excellent performance that was. Anyway, mate. So how you been anyway?
All right, mate. How are you?
Good. Good. Makes me sound good, doesn't it? And you were a pretty baby, I suppose.
That's right. You had a bath, have you?
Had a bath, and it nice. What is it, Mark?
Have you got
Here we go.
Have you got the stuff on?
Contestant number 1. Would you please greet? Here we go. Would you please greet Josephine Ralph from Edgware?
Oh, hey, so much.
Look at that. Give us it.
Yeah, lovely.
Beautiful.
Really. Not tonight, Josephine.
In number 2, from Stoke Newington, Ron Magan.
Good old Ronnie, yeah.
Good stuff, eh? In number 3, would you welcome, please, for a face that lunched 1,000 chips, this is Margaret House from Suburbia. There it is. Good stuff.
That's why you couldn't find Madonna. Yes, it is.
Now, what do you get if you cross the FA Cup, some spam, and a cab with its doors open? You do get Sheila Ensell from Bethnal Green.
Good old Sheila.
Down. Back.
Oh.
Now, that well-known dog's bum with a hat on, Derek Curling. Donald, because your agents know about this. And last but not least, Arthur, would you welcome Henry Murphy, the Popeye lookalike. That is good stuff.
That's real good stuff.
If I might run your back room, there's Henry Murphy from Middlesex, Derek Curling, Sheila Ensell,
Derek, Sheila from Australia.
Margaret House.
Madonna.
Ron Megan. And Josephine Ralph.
Ronnie from the Ville. And Josephine. Not tonight, me darling. Not now. You like someone I took out the end of chicks last week.
Now, would you pick in reverse order the top three?
Yes,
Firstly,
I will.
In third place.
In third place, Josephine.
In Josephine in third place. Ladies and gentlemen. And in second place.
Old Baldy.
Old Baldy, yes. That is Derek Curlin, ladies and gentlemen. And in first place.
The one.
What on with him?
The one over there with the face like the door knocker.
It had to be from Middlesex, Henry Murphy. Look at that. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for the prize was. We're going to take Henry, make up his face, and he will be on display in the London Dungeon for all the tourists to throw rotten fruit at. The other two will just get mock-ups of their face. It's not a very pretty process, and Gary's going to explain what happens now.
Yes, and with me I've got Gary and Dick from the dungeon. They're mixing up some of this gooey stuff that later on they're going to slap all over their faces. and I've had this done, and it's very, very cold. In fact, it's very difficult to hold a really mean face, because as soon as they touch your face, it's cold and go like that, and that don't look very mean at all, but it'll probably get more laughs than them there. Absolutely hysterical. Well, I'm sure when they have had all this done, they will be set for life. Michael.
What baffles me is how they can live in the same world as Marie Helvin. It's baffling, isn't it? It's a different species. Anyway, there's been a lot of fuss in the car world this week about the sale of British Leyland trucks and Land Rovers to the Americans, but on a lesser level, some bad news broke for those pillars of the motor trade, the car breakers. Big firms like BL and Ford have always made sure that all car spares were made by them. And up to now, if you wanted a cheap drive shaft or a big end, the place to go was the breakers. But this week, the House of Lords has decided that anyone can make the spares, and the floodgates are now open for cheap imitation parts to come from abroad. Fred Housego returns to tell us about this bad break for the breakers.
If you've ever wondered what happens to your motor after it's had an argument with a 10-ton truck, here's the answer. It comes to a breaker's yard like this. And while you might not want your car anymore, the blokes who work here can't wait to get their hands on it.
What do you guys do for a living then?
Strippers. Cars, yeah. Just dismantle cars, dismember them. They just get great enjoyment out of doing it as well.
You see, these may look like worthless old hulks to you or me, but as the professionals know, wrecked cars can be full of surprises. Some of them even go.
Do you go there berserk, do you, when you get the chance?
Well, I think I do, yes. I really, if we get a chance to drive up the road, up the yard and back even, you know, just to get the feel of the car. Really interesting.
And some cars are stuffed with all sorts of unexpected treasures.
Well, lots of underwear, men hurriedly come to rescue, and strange items of clothing, things like that.
What about things you find in the car?
Yeah, found a pair of crutches and an old set of golf clubs.
What do you do with the crutches?
Sold them.
There must be a limited market for those, isn't there?
Yeah, the chap come in with a bad back. And she thought they're good. Who's pleased as punch without?
Mind you, finding valuables like these is just a bit of a perk. It's all those lovely spare parts that they're really after. And when professional strippers get to work, they get them off in minutes. It's only in modern yards like this one in Sunbury that they take the cars apart for you. The old-style breakers' yards are very different. They leave it to the public to do their own stripping, and that's where problems begin. For a start, half of them aren't entirely clear what spare parts they want for their car.
There's one lady customer we had in, and she asked for the long thing under the bonnet with a bulge at the end, which it's obvious to us that it was a drive shaft.
We had a customer once ask for a gearbox, and when we asked him if it was an automatic, he said no, his car was a convertible.
But once they've decided what they're after, there's no guarantee they'll ever manage to get at it.
Well, you do see legs and arms sort of going all over the place, and people clambering up and trying to reach things that they obviously can't.
Get their head stuck under the dashboard and can't get out again. Sometimes you have to go round at night, 5:30, make sure we put us out of the yard and find someone locked us up in the car.
Now, the worst thing about customers is they think that everything in a breaker's yard is theirs for the taking, and you'd be amazed at the sort of things they try to get away with. Do you get a lot of attempted nicking in this yard?
All the time, yeah.
blokes trying to nick number plates the other week, actually trying to steal number plates, blokes trying to walk out with cylinders up their jumpers. And
cylinder up his jumper?
Yeah, they try anything. If they think we're not watching, they'll be out that gate with it.
You can always find them because they walk in sort of normal like anyone else, just with a toolbox, and then they come walking out, and what you got? Nothing. And they're sort of like this instead of being normal.
Yard owners get so fed up with this behaviour that they can be driven to drastic action. Nigel Jenkins from Glamorgan brought in a Sherman tank. It helps to scare away any thieves, and it comes in pretty handy for putting those finishing touches to scrap cars.
We're all having a good laugh at those ignorant people, but we've all, each of us here, been given an object of motoring concern, and we've got to guess what they are. Danny, what is that you have?
You know me and motors, don't you? This is probably up the car I bought. It ain't worked since we got it. So, that is... I think they took the late Fred Housego and gave his mouth a retread, and that's exactly what that is. It's Fred's gob. That's what I suggest.
Fred's gob.
Fred's gob.
That's right. What have you got there, Gary?
Well, I'm like Danny. I don't really know much about cars, but I'm 100% certain that that is off a carburettor.
Right, that's off a carburettor. Marie?
I have absolutely no idea, but it looks like kind of the lid on a pressure cooker.
Oh, yes.
Every car's got one of those,
So,
isn't it?
what's that thing?
An artificial hip, even.
What is it?
Yes, mine's much easier. I've got a Rambo 4 machine gun. So, actually, I've got a list here and I can tell you what they are. Danny, what you are holding there is an air filter.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Gary, you have a plug from a sink waste disposal unit. Marie, I wasn't so far off with the hip. It's a ball joint.
It's a ball?
And this is the good old Commodorian base. Actually, it's a... What is it? What have I got? Somebody tell me, remind me. It's a shock absorber. Yes, of course it is. I thought it was a Commodorian base. Anyway, join us in a minute and find out what makes an ideal home. Thank you very much. Ah, the smell of it. Anyway, as it has for more than 70 years, the Ideal Home exhibition has beaten the cuckoo in the race to tell us it's spring. This year's exhibition opened on Tuesday at Earl's Court, and there are, of course, as many different ideas about what makes an ideal home as there are people to buy them. What is it that makes some people go for chrome and others for chintz? It isn't simply the money, although, as Gary Wilmot found out, it does help.
You've either got or you haven't got style.
This little pad is the home of ex-Playboy king Victor Lowndes and his wife Marilyn. Not their weekday home, you understand. That's in town. This is simply their weekend cottage.
How many bedrooms does it have?
It has, in addition to 4 staff flats, it has 18 bedrooms.
18 bedrooms?
Each with its own bath, too.
I was going to say, that solves the problem of the old queue in the morning, doesn't it, to the bathroom?
nightmare to clean.
Do you dust it all, dear?
She doesn't do a thing. Snowdrops that we usually see.
Yes, I know. Oh, that looks delicious, Antonio. Thank you.
And when they grab a bite to eat, they do it in style. In this house, there's real scope for entertaining.
What's the most you've ever had round the table?
Oh, with all its leaves in it, we can stretch it out so that 31 people can sit here.
You see, as far as Victor and Marilyn are concerned, this is their ideal home. Set in 30 acres of prime Hertfordshire countryside, and they wouldn't change it for the world.
The Georgian houses, the rooms have a lovely proportion. You feel very comfortable in them. The size of the rooms is right. They don't seem cold and forbidding. These houses you'd never own. A smaller house that you own it. But with a big house like this, you're really, the house owns you, and you're sort of the custodian of it.
I'll come to the meet to say goodbye to everyone.
It's a shame you're not.
But not everybody's idea of style is quite so conventional.
Our house in the middle of our street. Our house.
Now this is the North London home of Peter and Jill Luckhilly, and they wouldn't have it any other way.
Everything here has been very, very carefully thought out. It hasn't just been put together, you know, on the back of an envelope. The use of the colour and the proportion and the scale of the fittings and the furniture, much of which is very classic, makes it a very warm building to live in. It's so calm, in fact, that I'm going on holiday in a week and I don't want to go. I'd rather stay here.
This place is the very opposite of Victor Lowndes' retreat out in Leafy Hearts, according to its designer Bob McLaren.
What I have created here, I think, is a kind of bed-sit living space. There's a music space, there's an eat space, a sleep, love space, a bath space, and it's all in one space. You don't have to walk more than about 5 yards from one place to another.
But top designer Nicky Haslam knows not all clients are as tasteful as Peter and Jill. In fact, they often have some pretty naff ideas about what they want.
Have you ever encountered any of those situations?
Yeah, sometimes people say they want sort of odd things, and you just have to be very gentle and persuade them that's not what they really want.
So perhaps the answer is to buy a house like this. True, it has got a millionaire price tag, but the builders have thoughtfully made 1 or 2 design decisions for you.
I mean, I've noticed a chandelier over there. Is that inclusive?
That is included, yes, you'll be relieved to know. That will be erected during the course of the next week by a winch, in view of its extraordinary weight.
And upstairs in one of the 8 bathrooms, it's a regular bird lover's paradise.
Well, suffice to say that in the master bathroom of this house, the accoutrement costs in excess of £10,000, and that's 24-carat gold-plated swans, etc., jacuzzi fittings. And that is not untypical, I might add.
That's just one bathroom?
That's just one bathroom, yes. Well then, Mr. Wilmot, what do you think?
To be quite honest, it's just what I'm looking for.
Splendid.
But how much is it?
Well, I think offers in excess of 4.25 million will be treated very sympathetically.
Yeah. You haven't got one without any of them brass ducks in the bathroom.
It's like Hollywood Wives, isn't it? All over again. Was that the house that had the operating theatre in it as well?
No, at the other end of the garden. I mean, that was expensive enough, but that was a shed compared to the place that was at the end of the garden. That was worth $4.25 million. The one at the end of the garden was £25 million, and in it is a surgery fully equipped for any operation.
Marie, you've just moved, haven't you? Yeah, is it your ideal home?
It will be. It takes a long time, you know, to get a place together, but it will be one day. I mean, at the moment it's very clean looking. The house I shared with Bailey for 11, 12 years, something like that. I mean, it was black walls, no windows, and everything very dark.
Shows the dandruff too, doesn't it?
Sure does.
So what special features are you planning?
Well, I've got a split-level dining room and kitchen, so it overlooks my sitting room. So when I have guests to dinner, I can still talk to them. They can hear me. You know, I'm just upstairs.
All your own ideas, are they? Have you got an
Actually, no, it was already there.
I see. Just
I was
moved
lucky.
in and there it was. I went once, what am I saying? A friend of mine had a girlfriend whose father was immensely rich, and he went on a tour of this estate, and in the house, the father had opened the door, and there was a French restaurant with full staff. And he said, "Nothing, right, thank you very much." And they said, "Very good, sir," you know, and went home. What a way to live.
The ultra-modern house, I thought it was going to be full of all electronic opening doors, but there were no doors. Nothing. It was just what he called, as he said, I think, a love-making area. And in there was a row of wardrobes, and the two middle doors, you pushed them, of the wardrobes, and it was a bathroom on the other side of the door.
Love-making area?
Love-making, he called it. Yeah, the love
Put
area.
a spare room in my house, I think.
And remember, it's Wendy's birthday. Yes.
But Eric, when we were in Deptford, it's a lovely old house, and we was lucky because the couple who lived there were over 100 years old when they passed on, and they'd never touched anything. The old marble fireplaces, beautiful old houses, but Blackheath, I think, is the nicest place.
Very nice indeed. I'll tell you what, Gary, would you like to pop over and see how the plastering is going on? Are they still alive?
But of course, let's see what we've got here. Now, how are you, all right? Yeah? And how does it feel? Okay, look, you're breathing all right? Good, good, good. And, oh yes, Marion, this one's ready. Shove them under the dryer, will ya? What have we got over here? Let me have a look here. What's this? It hurts, doesn't it? Having them things stuck up your nose. But this doesn't hurt one bit. Now, a few weeks ago, I actually did this. I had this shoved on, so I'm going to get my home back now by whacking some on this. Is it all right if I do that? Sure. Right, I've got to delve in there. Oh, it feels disgusting. Absolutely. Ready? Close your eyes. Don't leave them open. Here we go. Here we go. Am I doing it right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Whack it on. Get it on there.
And that's it for tonight. I have to interrupt you there because no more ugly mugs, by the way, please. We'll be sending all the photos to Central Casting or Scotland Yard. Thank you, Marie and John and everybody else. Who's John? See you next week. Goodbye. And to yourself, the marvellous audience, very patient, very responsive. Have a nice weekend. Now get out.